Hello everybody and welcome to another video on the channel. This is going to be my final AFL tipping video of the year. It's the grand final week this week, so obviously there's only one more game to go before the season is wrapped up and we move on to other things like the trade period and just other sports in general. But yeah, this will be the final match of the 2022 AFL season. Obviously I'm going to do a prediction for it. I'll do a quarter by quarter prediction, so I'll do what I think the scores will be at each quarter break, since I feel like for a grand final I've got to do something a little bit different, and I've seen other people do that before. I'll go over my Norm Smith medalist, my first goal scorer as well, and obviously also the winner. Yeah, I think without further ado I should get into it. Hopefully it's a cracking game. My boys, the Sydney Swans, are in it, so I really hope them to win. Hope they win, and yeah, let's get into the tips. So obviously the last time these two teams played off against each other was back in round 2 of this season at the SCG. It was obviously the famous match where Lance Franklin kicked his 1000th goal. That's really pretty much the only thing anyone ever remembers from that match, and I mean, fair enough, it was one of the greatest sporting moments in, well, Australian sporting history. So of course that's what that match is going to be remembered for, but obviously Sydney did get the job done pretty comfortably by 30 points in the end. However, I don't think we can really take this match into too much consideration when picking who we're going to be tipping for this game, since it was just so long ago. These two sides have changed a lot since then, and I think the factor of Buddy Franklin kicking 1000th goal kind of, I don't know, it was almost impossible for Geelong to win this game with everything that was going on, really. So I just don't think it can be looked at too much when looking at past matchups. But now to look at some actually relevant stats. Obviously this grand final is back at the MCG. We had a couple of years without the game being at the MCG, rather at both the Gabba and Optus Stadium. So I think now that it is back at the MCG, it's time to look at how these two sides fare where playing games at the MCG. So Sydney have won 7 of their last 10 at the MCG, which is fairly impressive, while Geelong have won 10 of their last 11 at the MCG, with that one loss coming against Hawthorn earlier this year. So both sides play pretty well at the MCG. Sydney just beat Melbourne there in the qualifying final not that long ago. So yeah, neither of these sides really have a hoodoo or anything with that ground. Look, both these sides are on big game-winning streaks, with Geelong on 15 wins and Sydney on 9 wins. I feel like up until the final series, both of these teams were quite underrated. They weren't really being talked about as genuine. Well, maybe Geelong were, but definitely not Sydney. No one really considered them like major threats to the premiership, despite their impressive winning streak and their incredible form. And yeah, it wasn't until they won that first qualifying final that people really started to talk about just how good they were. So yeah, both these teams are in very hot form. I think I heard a stat that this is the first time in a very long time that both teams have come into a grand final on 6-game winning streaks, or 6 games or more winning streaks. So yeah, this is perhaps the best form two teams going into a grand final have ever been in. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to note. Both teams have a lot of momentum. Both teams only played about 2 games in 27 days because of the pre-finals bye, and then of course they both won their qualifying final, so they got to skip another week. So both teams have pretty much the same match conditioning, match fitness. Geelong last week obviously had a much easier match than the Sydney Swans, so I don't know if that'll benefit them or harm them. I feel like it might benefit them because they didn't really have to work as hard in that match, especially after quarter time. But anyway, that's enough with my rambling. Last thing I want to talk about quickly is the team selection. Sydney are going to be bringing in Hayden McLean, and they'll be dropping Logan McDonald. Sam Reid isn't going out of the side, so it looks like he will be playing unless something else happens before now and the start of the game. So Sam Reid, he did get taken off and subbed off in that preliminary final, obviously, but clearly he's okay to play, and he'll be a very important part of Sydney potentially winning that game. Geelong haven't made any changes, so Max Holmes looks to be playing as well, so the two major injury concerns for the side seem not to be a problem anymore. And now I'll get on with my tips. So like I said before, I will be doing quarter by quarter scores. So starting off with my quarter time scores, this is really just a guess, but I'm going to go with 23-20 in favour of Sydney. My halftime scores, I'm going to be going with Sydney 31, Geelong 36, so Geelong have the lead at halftime. Then at three-quarter time, I'll tip Geelong to have the lead by 7 points. And at full time, with a massive last quarter, I'll tip Sydney to get the job done by 14 points, because I can't back against my own team in a grand final. I mean, is it biased? Yes, obviously, but you just can't back against your own team in the grand final. I feel like we do match up pretty well on Geelong. Both teams are very balanced with their midfield, forward line and back line, so it should be a very enthralling contest. But I just can't back against my own team. I'll tip the Swans to get it done by 14 points in the end. So now to go through my first goal scorer, leading goal scorer, and Norm Smith medalist. Alright, so I'm going to be tipping the first goal scorer to be Jeremy Cameron from the Geelong Cats. I think he could get the first goal on the board. He's been a known goal kicker this year, and of course, not always is it the case that the first goal scorer is from the winning side. For most disposals, I'm going to be tipping Chad Warner with 33. For most goals, I'll be going Tom Papley, Isaac Heaney, and Tom Hawkins, all to kick 3 goals. And for my Norm Smith medalist, I'll be going with Luke Parker. He's a big-time player. He's been playing well this final series, and I think he can get the Norm Smith around his neck. And that'll pretty much wrap up my tips for today. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Hopefully my boys get it done on Saturday. Tell me your tips for the game, your Norm Smith medalists, etc. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.